There's a question that sparks endless arguments in gaming circles. What is the best game ever made? For some, it's a classic like Ocarina of Time. For others, it's the revolutionary Half-Life 2, or the endlessly replayable Skyrim. But in 2018, Rockstar Games released something different, something heavier, stronger, slower, and more demanding. And over time, it has become harder and harder to ignore a truth that feels inevitable. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't just Rockstar's masterpiece. It may be the best game ever made, but not for the reasons you might think. It's not the biggest map or the longest campaign, not because it's won the most awards or sold more copies than anything else. It's because Red Dead Redemption 2 achieved something that most games don't even attempt, and those that do often fail. It creates a life. A world so detailed, a cast so believable, and a protagonist so human that by the time the credits roll, you don't feel like you finished a game, you feel like you've lived through one. And at the heart of that is Arthur Morgan. Unlike most game protagonists, Arthur isn't a blank slate. He's not a faceless mannequin that you morph and shape into your own version, a digital version of yourself in a game. He's not a silent vessel for your power fantasy. He's a man, weary, funny, contradictory, and deeply flawed. And yet he's also yours. The genius of Red Dead's writing is that Arthur changes based on how you play. His journal fills with reflections that echo your choices. Acts of cruelty make his entries clipped and harsh. Acts of mercy bring out sketches, softer words, and a lingering sense of conscience. Even his body language shifts. He mutters different lines in camp. He looks at people differently. You're not just steering him through missions, you're shaping the way he understands himself and how the world understands him. This balance between authored character and player agency creates the most believable protagonist gaming has ever seen. And by the end, Arthur Morgan doesn't feel like Rockstar's creation, he feels like yours. And this is one of the reasons why I think Red Dead Redemption 2 triumphs over games like The Witcher 3 or anything made by Naughty Dog, is that although a lot of the storytelling is still on a train track, it still has a destination it is going to, no matter what you do, the story of how you get there feels deeply nuanced. And it feels like you still have agency over a character that is already written in a way that you simply do not have with Joel and you do not have with Geralt of Rivia. But Arthur is only one part of the story. To understand why Red Dead Redemption 2 works, you have to look at Dutch van der Linde. Dutch is the most convincing cult leader ever written for a game. Far Cry writers wish they could write a cult leader this believable. And it's because the script earns his charisma before it dismantles it. Early Dutch is magnetic. He remembers birthdays, recites scraps of literature, and talks like a man who's read far more than he's lived. He makes you want to believe, but slowly, carefully, methodically, and with strokes of pure genius, that mask slips. When Hosea dies during the Braithwaite feud, Dutch doesn't mourn, he sermonizes. When Cornwall is gunned down in Ansburg, it isn't strategy, it's escalation. When the Saint Denis bank job costs Lenny his life, Dutch calls it sacrifice. But you can see in Arthur's face who really feels that loss. By the time we get to Beaver Hollow, the man who once sounded like a revolutionary leader is repeating the same lines.
We need more commotion.
One score and one whole hell of a lot of noise.
One more big score, we got enough money to leave. All this turmoil has...
As if repetition itself could hold the gang together. It can't, it couldn't, and it never would. And the writing never flips a switch. It just lets Dutch's rhetoric rot in your ears until you realize the charisma was always a theatrical performance. Around Arthur and Dutch is the van der Linde gang, maybe the richest ensemble cast ever created for a video game. And my absolute favorite character in this game, and I think we were robbed by not having her playable in the last section of the game instead of John, Sadie Adler. Evolves from a grief-stricken widow to one of the most fearsome gunfighters in the West, and you ride with her every step of the way. Her voice dropping its tremor, her posture hardening until she's no longer a background character but a force of nature. Charles Smith becomes the gang's conscience, quiet, capable, and principled, risking everything to help the Rapiti tribe, even as Arthur questions his own place in the world. Kieran Duffy, the former O'Driscoll, begins as a joke, an outsider forced into camp life. But when his headless corpse is dumped into camp by his old gang, the entire group falls silent. That silence is the game's commentary on cruelty, on consequence, and how fragile belonging really is. And then there's Lenny. You drink with him in Valentine, stumbling through the bar in one of the funniest sequences Rockstar has ever built. Hours later, he's dead on the floor of the Saint Denis bank. No fanfare, just gone. Even Susan Grimshaw, the camp's enforcer, holds the group together until Micah takes her life. And suddenly the rules and order of the gang go with her. These aren't quest givers. They're people you live with, and when they die, you don't lose a mission marker, you lose a part of the camp's soul. Nowhere is this clearer than in the Strauss missions. Leopold Strauss, the camp's bookkeeper, is a quiet villain whose weapon isn't a gun, it's debt. Playing into the long-standing narrative of the ultimate greed of capitalism and the greed of what made America what it is today. Arthur goes out to collect money from desperate families, and one of them, Thomas Downs, coughs blood in his face. Hours later, a doctor confirms Arthur's illness, tuberculosis. The game doesn't underline the connection, it doesn't need to. You know what happened, cause and effect. Later you meet Edith Downs, Thomas's widow, and her son. They're broken, pushed to the margins of society, surviving in misery because of you. Red Dead doesn't let you shrug it off. You carry that guilt until Chapter 6, when Arthur finally throws Strauss out of camp, telling him he can't bear the man's presence any longer. It's not redemption, it's disgust at what he has become. This is how Red Dead intertwines system, story, and theme. Your disease is personal, debt is political. Both are tied together through Arthur's body. Red Dead Redemption 2 is also a story about America at the turn of the century, and it doesn't romanticize it. The city of Saint Denis is a masterpiece of design, a place where manners and corruption intertwine. You see politicians like Mayor Lemire, I butchered the pronunciation of that, who dresses civilization in silk, while Angelo Bronte pulls the strings with old world charm. Out west, the Wapiti tribe is pushed from their land by Cornwall's oil empire, and Arthur realizes too late that his gang is just another cog in that machine. Rains fall. The weary chief delivers some of the game's most haunting dialogue. Calm, tired wisdom from a man watching history erase his people. His son, the Eagle Flies, can't stop himself from fighting back, and the tragedy of his death isn't just his, it's America's. This isn't nostalgia, this is autopsy, and the corpse is the myth of the American frontier. The structure of the game mirrors this decline. Coulter, the opening in the snow, forces intimacy. You meet the gang in survival, huddled together, depending on one another. Horseshoe Overlock is open, almost idyllic. Life feels good. By the time we get to Shady Belle, the gang is living well, flush with cash, but cracks begin to show. Saint Denis promises reinvention, but delivers betrayal. Then comes Guarma, often criticized as filler, but thematically it's perfect. A literal dislocation, showing the gang in exile, stripped of purpose. When they return, Dutch has changed. He stopped pretending he's fighting for a cause. Now he's just fighting. By Beaver Hollow, the gang is living in filth, paranoid, broken, and the world shrinks with them. It's not that Red Dead Redemption 2 is too long. It's long so you can feel the weight of wasted time. Because when Arthur's diagnosis comes, when the clock starts ticking, you realize how much of his life and yours was squandered chasing Dutch's dream. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I have never at any point looked back at my time playing Red Dead, and by this time I probably have over 1,000 hours playing Red Dead, and thought to myself, God, I wish I could get that time back. But my point being is that there is no filler at any point in Red Dead Redemption 2. There is no quest, no sub-quest, no activity that feels like it's just there to make you do something, to deliver something from A to B. Everything has a rhyme and a purpose and a deeper meaning, and the world is so beautifully created that even just riding around the map feels like time well spent. Rockstar's script doesn't rely on exposition or clever one-liners. It uses silence, subtext, and repetition. Dutch's catchphrases decay until they sound hollow. Micah never declares himself the traitor, but he's always in the right place at the wrong time, whispering poison into Dutch's ear. And Arthur, listen to how often Arthur doesn't answer a question. His pauses let you, the player, fill the silence with doubt, guilt, or defiance. It's writing that trusts you to hear what isn't said. Even the side stories deepen the main themes. Hamish Sinclair, the one-legged veteran, spends his final days with you fishing and hunting. If you finish his story, you inherit his horse, a quiet ritual about legacy. Charlotte, the widow in the woods, learns to shoot and cook under Arthur's guidance. By your final visit, she's thriving. Her strength, a mirror of Arthur's decline. Marco Dragic, the eccentric inventor, embodies Dutch's techno-utopian lies. Brilliance wasted, dead alone in his lab. And the American Dream serial killer is America's violence turned inward, dressing itself in ritual horror. These aren't distractions, they're echoes, refractions of the same truth. Everyone is trying to survive a world that doesn't want them in it anymore. The atmosphere seals it. Woody Jackson's score moves with the land, aching strings for quiet rides, tense percussion for combat, rare vocal tracks that arrive in the moments that you just might need them. After Arthur's diagnosis, a long ride plays out with nothing but a song and the sound of hooves. No gunfights, no explosions, just time. Time to feel the weight of your story. That restraint is what makes Red Dead cinematic, not cutscenes, but a rhythm of image and sound that trusts you to breathe it in. Even the fussy mechanics serve the narratives. Cleaning your gun, brushing your horse, managing Arthur's weight. These aren't busy work, they're habits. They're what makes Arthur feel like a man, not an avatar. Your horse isn't a menu option, it's a relationship. Lose it and the grief is real. Crime isn't a toggle, it's a social fabric. Witnesses run, scream, bargain. Every choice in Red Dead is not about loot, it's about who you are becoming, and how the world around you interprets who you have become. And then comes the ending. I'm not afraid to say this, I cried. Not for the reasons you think. In my playthrough, I only ever had one horse. So that moment when Arthur says goodbye to his horse, that hit harder than anything else I've ever experienced in gaming. Red Dead Redemption 2 doesn't save its morality for a final cutscene. It's been judging you all along. Arthur's fate, whether he dies bitter, consumed by vengeance, or redeemed, trying to give John his family a chance, reflects every choice you made across the entire game. The stag, the coyote, the words he leaves behind, it all feels inevitable. And when the epilogue arrives, you take control of John Marston, years before the events of the first Red Dead Redemption. At first it feels strange, but then it clicks. Arthur's legacy isn't in a scoreboard. It's in how John changes. It's the man John becomes because of Arthur's influence. The cycle continues, and the story becomes myth. Plenty of games are great at one thing. Half-Life 2 gave us mechanical innovation. Skyrim gave us freedom. The Last of Us gave us narrative control. But Red Dead Redemption 2 is rare. Every discipline, writing, performance, mechanics, music, world design, points to the same idea, that you have lived through the decline of a man, a gang, and an era, and the world remembered you for it. Players don't recall their stats, their build, their loot. They tell stories about their night they drank with Lenny, about the time they let a witness go, about the horse they lost in the mud, about the man they tried to help and the man they became. And that's why, when all is said and done, Red Dead Redemption 2 stands a mile apart from the rest. Not as Rockstar's masterpiece, but as the best role-playing game, no, as the best game ever made. And that's everything for me on my absolute love letter to Red Dead Redemption 2. And as always, until next time, something, something, something.